Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel Vigil, taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel Vigil.
Happy Tuesday, my friends. I hope you all had a wonderful President's Day weekend. A new NFL season for the offseason opens up today as the franchise tag gets rolling. March 5th is by the time the teams have to decide who they're keeping and who they're going to end up tagging. But there's a lot of names that are floating around. So the one and only James Merilatt is hanging out with us today as we're going to go over some of that. But the Broncos really don't have any names that they're looking to franchise tag.
No.
To have a franchise tag, essentially, it's a luxury. And the Broncos can't afford any of these luxuries.
Well, at the moment, they can't. They've got some work to do. I mean, they have the, fifth least cap space in the league. And so they're already over the cap. They're going to have to restructure some guys, decide who they're going to keep. I mean, look, there are places to cut, right? They have the most expensive wide receiver room in the league.
Yeah.
They have one Pro Bowler, and it was in 2019 that Cortland Sutton made the Pro Bowl. So that's the obvious place. But,
Not the quarterback?
They're a team. Problem is you can't reduce that one.
The little smile right there told me everything.
Listen, if you could, I've said this all along, if you could get out of the Russ deal and move on, I'd be open to it. But if you can't, and you're going to have that money on the books anyway, well, then that changes the conversation. So, yeah, they're between a rock and a hard place. And it is hard to look at it right now of the path that seems like they're going down and come up with a scenario in which they're competitive in 24 or 25. It's difficult. Now, maybe Sean Payton can coach his way out of this mess, but boy, he's got a tall task in front of him.
Well, let's also be honest. Everybody comes with Sean Payton, and I'm not a Sean Payton hater. I am a little frustrated with how things have gone and, the media that he's done, and I feel like he's not being super authentic. But essentially, it feels like they can't move up in the draft because they have no draft picks. So they can't go up and get one of these top 3 QBs that everybody's talking about. They're going to be so in debt with the Russell Wilson deal if they move on, yet they're looking to bring in a bridge quarterback to figure out who can help with the rookie QB. Like, it just feels like this giant mess, but they have the obvious answer kind of right in front of them. And that's keep Russell Wilson, allow him to be your bridge quarterback. But it seems like there's personal vendetta between Sean Payton and Russell Wilson that I can't seem to figure out. And I'm not exactly sure, why they're so we have to move on.
It seems like there is.
Yeah.
You're right. We don't have any evidence, though, that that's what happened.
Right? They say they have a great relationship, all of these things, but at the exact same time, then why are we so absolutely have to move on?
I mean, really, the only incident we had was Sean Payton yelling at Russell Wilson on the sideline in Detroit when they wound up having to settle for a field goal, which it was none of that was Russell Wilson's fault.
No.
It was a comedy of errors.
Yeah.
But Russ didn't wasn't Quinn Miners lining up offsides.
Did we ever figure out what play it was that Sean Payton called the wrong one because he read it wrong because of his eyesight?
Maybe it was that one.
That's my point. I'm like,
and Russ called him out on it and he yelled at him. But again, it's football. It's emotions run high. That incident shouldn't be enough.
Agreed.
That shouldn't be the thing that, hey, we're going to part ways and we're going to have, we're going to eat all this dead cap and all the rest of this stuff. That shouldn't be the moment that makes it just unravel.
But you say that, but let's go back to the beginning of the season where he talks about Russ's social media, usage and all of these things. It feels like even from the very beginning, there was some sort of thing about Sean Payton's not bought in on Russell Wilson.
It doesn't seem like he is. No, at all. But that, and I wrote about it today at denversports.com. If I'm Greg Penner, I got to prove that I'm the boss.
Yeah.
And I don't want an owner who's meddling all the time. Then you got Jerry Jones in Dallas, and they win a lot of football games, but they don't win anything that matters. They don't ever have a parade in Dallas at this point. But there are certain times where the owner has to step in and be the cooler head and be the one who says, nope, this ain't happening. And if I'm Greg Penner, and I know he wasn't here, they didn't own the team when they made the Russ trade, but he inherited it, and then he did the Russ contract. So we traded 2 number ones, 2 twos, 3 players, and gave $245 million in guaranteed or in a new contract to Russell Wilson, of which he's not played a single play. Not one play.
It's so bad.
Right? And then you also went and traded a first-round pick and a second-round pick for Sean Payton. Gave him
come in to fix him, right?
Gave him $90 million.
Good Lord.
And you've got 8 wins to show for it. I'm putting those 2 guys in a room and saying 3 ones, 3 twos, 3 players, $335 million. You 2 guys figure it out. Yeah. And you're not leaving this room until you do. Mm-hmm. This is madness. Yeah. It really is. And it's to me, it's about egos. And I'm not saying it's just Sean. I think it's probably both of them.
Yeah.
But at some point, that's where the boss comes in and says, you got to check your egos at the doors, at the door, fellas.
You're under contract.
Figure this out. And you're not getting out of this room until you have a plan to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then you guys better go win some games next year because I'm over it.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, go be the boss.
Agreed.
Because, and everybody knows I'm a Russell Wilson fan, and I'm, arguably the biggest supporter in town. I don't think he's perfect. The fumbles this year were ridiculous.
The sacks he put himself.
Yeah, I mean, there were all sorts of things.
Tough.
But I think if we're being fair, and I think this is the stuff Sean Payton has to look at, of, hey, you got 4th down in Buffalo, and you think it's going to be man and they run zone or vice versa. I forget what the exact scenario was, but your play call was bad.
Yep.
Russell Wilson made a play there and threw a touchdown pass to Cortland Sutton that any of the guys he's talking about playing with next year, Jarrett Stidham, whoever else, it's a sack and you turn the ball over on downs. Russell Wilson made it a touchdown. So we can be critical of the number of things Russell Wilson does that are problematic.
Yep.
But you also have to look at that and go, well, that's pretty special. How do I maximize that? I feel like Sean Payton's the guy in a relationship that all he thinks about is the dishes in the sink and doesn't think about all the things that the other person's bringing to the table.
I just remember watching after the Super Bowl, and they were talking about what Andy Reid did so well this year, and he adjusted his team, right? Like, they played such different football. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes is magical and he's able to do so many things, but they adjusted the way that they were playing because they didn't have the crazy good wide receivers this year. And Andy Reid is so special in that sense that he was like, all right, what do I have in my hand right now? How can I win plays by changing the game plan? And that's what I kind of want to see Sean Payton do, and not say it's my game plan or get out.
Yeah, and that's what drives me crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like, Andy Reid's at the top of the list. I think John Harbaugh's in that conversation, right? You win a Super Bowl with Joe Flacco, and you're the number 1 seed with Lamar Jackson. You can't find 2 quarterbacks that are more different.
True.
Right? One is made of bronze.
Yep.
He's just a statue. And the other guy's arguably the best running quarterback in the history of the league.
Agreed.
And you find a way to win. Like, okay, that's being a good head coach.
Yep.
I have a huge issue in any sport with a coach who won't look at his talent and figure out, how do I make the most of this?
Okay.
Has to have it his way. Well, then you're not a very good coach.
Yeah.
I
mean, you probably even see that just coaching your kids. Like, you have to
100%.
adjust all the time.
100%, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're coaching 6th grade football and you happen to have a kid who can throw the ball, well, you're going to have a passing offense. Like, it's, you got to be able to adjust your talent. That drives me crazy. That frustrates me. I think it's Sean. Look, if Sean Payton can only run his system and can only run it with Drew Brees, well, then how special are you?
Agreed.
And I think if you can't look at Russell Wilson and say, how do I make an offense that's good with this guy? Because he does have a lot of abilities. It may not be the abilities Sean Payton is used to and wants, but he has a lot of abilities. If you can't figure out how to make a successful offense with that, that's on you as a head coach.
You know, one thing I've really loved about Russell Wilson and what he's done is all of the narratives have come out of his camp. Right? Like, the selling of his house, he's not waiting for the Broncos to cut him and then saying, okay, we're going to put the market or the house on the market. No. He's saying, look, I know I'm probably going to get cut, so I'm going to put my house up. The narrative is all going around what Russell Wilson is doing, and I actually have a lot of respect for it. He's not playing like victim in this situation. He's saying, all right, this is what's going to happen, just so everybody knows, like, it's coming.
Yeah, he's taken as much charge of the situation as you can. And, going back to the initial part of the conversation of should he be the bridge quarterback, like, there is the factor of that $37 million becomes guaranteed for 25 on March 18th. That was always the issue. Like, that's why he got benched.
Yep.
That's why they talked about benching him midseason.
Whoa. Is that why he got benched?
Yes.
Or was it because he actually was not playing super well and they wanted to see what they had with Jarrett Stidham?
No. I was on the air.
I might disagree with you.
I was on the air with Josh Dover, filling in for Brandon Stokely when the news came down. It was like 5 minutes before we went on the air. And Kliss and Rank and us and everybody, that was the story. Then it became all the stuff about the NFLPA and then it became, well, we got to spin this and make it was about, performance and not about protecting ourselves. It was 100% about protecting themselves, which is actually smart. It's the smart thing to do because Russell Wilson getting hurt and blowing out his knee, and now you don't have the option in the offseason to move on from him if you don't want to, would have been foolish. But he got benched once their playoff chances were gone.
But you don't think that Sean Payton was like, I got to prove to Greg Penner that I can do it with another QB? I don't think he did prove that, but you don't think at all that he was thinking that?
No.
Because I do think Greg Penner, he is in charge, but he isn't in a really weird way. Like, I don't know. I think Greg Penner will make the ultimate decision, but I think Sean Payton will guide him to like whatever decision he wants, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's why I say he's got to show who's the boss.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's just doing whatever Sean Payton wants. And to me, Sean Payton is Toonces the cat, just driving the car off the cliff. Like at some point, Steve Martin needs to be like, nope, Toonces, you're moving out of the way. I'm taking the wheel here. I mean, you're coming off the Patriots game, Christmas Eve, which was a huge disappointment. And yeah, your playoff chances were gone at that point.
I've decided that I hate Christmas Eve or Christmas Day games. I hate them. They can ruin your holiday.
And this is very much going to sound like, oh, hey, it's a moral victory or whatever else. But if you're being objective about it, that 16-point comeback after Marvin Mims had the fumble that turned into a touchdown for the Patriots on the kickoff return. So you get the 2 touchdowns, the 2-2-point conversions. That was as electric as we've seen a Broncos game be and that stadium be since 2015.
But only in the second half.
I get it. And it was a small window.
Yeah.
But to me,
I would agree with that.
I want to take, okay, I finally found something good. I'm going to build upon that versus I'm going to go back to square one.
Why could Russ never figure it out in the first half?
Is it Russ? Is it Sean? I don't know. It's a really good question.
Yeah.
But if I'm Greg Penner, again, that's the question I'm asking.
Yeah.
Why can't we do what we did in that fourth quarter against
for an entire
the Patriots?
4 quarters.
Or a half or 3 quarters or whatever. Like, because there is something there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a believer in build upon what's there rather than just continually scrap it and go back to square one.
Yeah.
Because who are they going to bring in here that we know we're going to be able to get that kind of quarter?
Literally, I have no idea.
Let alone a half or a game.
Jameis Winston, like that's the name everybody's like, woo, that's going to get Broncos country pumped up. Absolutely not. I'm with you.
The Sam Darnold conversations, right? Like the morning show's grand plan of Sam Darnold and Mac Jones and
Andrew Mason
Jarrett
loves
Stidham.
it too.
Oh, it's the worst idea ever.
Yeah.
So that will be Sam Darnold's 4th team.
Yep.
Find me the quarterback in NFL history who it finally light bulb went on with that 4th team and he became a perennial winner.
Well, does Joe Flacco count? What team is Joe Flacco on that
he was good for 3 or 4 weeks this year.
Yeah.
Right? So the only real example of it is probably Kurt Warner.
Yeah.
But Kurt Warner was an MVP and won a Super Bowl with the Rams.
True.
Sam Darnold didn't do that.
Yeah.
Then he went to the Giants. They get Eli Manning. So it's like, oh, they're going to go with the younger quarterback. He goes to Arizona and kind of reinvents himself.
Yeah.
But he was an MVP, won a Super Bowl, went to another one. None of these guys have that resume.
No.
So that was an example of like, well, is Kurt Warner done? No, he's got a little bit more in the tank.
Mm-hmm.
Can Sam Darnold ever figure it out? Can Mac Jones ever figure it out?
Yep.
There's no precedent for it at all. And that's the plan you want to go with versus people like me are considered nuts because I want to go with the guy who's been to 2 Super Bowls, was going to the Hall of Fame.
That you already have to pay.
Right.
Like you already have to pay him.
There's the kicker. You're
I'm
already
not
paying
even
him.
the biggest like Russell Wilson fan. I was very critical of his play. I was sick of people calling him a top 5 QB in the league. Like I was so sick of it. I'm like there were plenty of people who had commented on it. But I'm at the exact same time, if you have to pay him already and you're looking for a bridge quarterback, I would still place my bets with Russell Wilson that he can make something happen. And hopefully another QB can come in and learn something from him. Maybe not everything because he's struggled, but he can come in and learn something from him. If it's JJ McCarthy or Bo Nix or whoever it's going to be, you already have to pay him. So just write it out.
Well, and then the only reason not to would be, hey, he's a problem. We've had zero evidence of that.
He was smacking Jarrett Stidham's back, being like, you got this, dude.
So the 2 games where he got benched, and you and I can debate why he got benched, but he did.
Yeah, he did. Great teammate.
Was he a bad teammate?
No. It was a little funky that everyone else was in sweats and he was in full pads at practice, but that's Russell Wilson. He's just quirky already.
And if you watch the last time he played, which was that Christmas Eve game, he was mic'd up.
I know.
And you watch that, it's like his teammates love him.
Yeah.
He's there's this narrative out there about Russell Wilson and how he's thought of by the other players down there that's completely false.
It's everything that like the Seahawks, like maybe they had issues with him. I don't know, but I don't feel like that translated over here to Denver.
I mean, I just don't think he's a guy that's addition by subtraction. Like, oh, you just got to get him out of the building because he's a problem.
Yeah.
I don't see that at all. And I think I've mentioned this to you before, but Cecil Lammey, part of our crew, love Cecil, does Orange and Blue Today. He was on Denver Sports Tonight one night a couple of weeks ago. It was the night Jim Harbaugh got hired.
Yep.
And he said if the Broncos had hired Jim Harbaugh the year before, Russell Wilson, they would have won 11 or 12 games, gone to the playoffs. Russell Wilson would have been comeback player of the year. They'd have probably won a wild card game. And I'm sitting there going, well, then Russ isn't the problem. The coach is the problem. if that's truly what Cecil thinks, then why would you not keep that guy and figure out, well, why don't you do with him what Jim Harbaugh would have done with him? That just makes no sense to me.
I don't know. But with Russell Wilson's house going on the market, it's really leading a lot of information and people being like, okay, he really is moving on. And one of our viewers...
Maybe he's just downsizing.
Maybe. He bought that $25 million house, most expensive one. He's like, I don't need this. I'll move down to Castle Rock.
Too many rooms. Just get a place at Castle Pines. Call it good.
But one of our viewers has Russ going to the Giants, and he thinks that this could be the perfect team for them. Russell Wilson should go to the Giants. There couldn't be a more perfect team for him. Thoughts?
Well, the Giants gave Daniel Jones a big contract, so, there's going to be a lot of money tied up in that. Now, most of the money, he's probably going to go for $1.1 million to some team, so he's essentially a free quarterback. So it is about fit. They have Brian Daboll, who did wonders with Josh Allen. I like that if I'm Russell Wilson. If Saquon is still there, they got a great back. They got a great running game.
ESPN did a best team for free agent or franchise tag and all this kind of stuff. You ready for this? Saquon Barkley to the Texans. If I'm Saquon, I'm like, sign me up. Let's go. I want to go play with CJ Stroud.
Really good young
I'm out of here with the Giants.
Some good talent. I guess I just going back to the Giants thing. On the outside at tight end, I know they got Waller, but Waller's never been the same guy he was a few years ago with the Raiders. If I'm Russ, I'm looking at this mess I just tried to succeed with here.
Yep. Disaster.
Here's
it's
another
a disaster
thing.
here.
Everybody agrees it's an unbelievably mediocre wide receiver room, the worst tight end room in the league, and an unbelievably mediocre group of backs.
Yeah.
But yet that's no reason why Russell Wilson might have struggled. That doesn't make any sense. But I'm going somewhere where that's not the situation.
Yeah.
So I would look at some place like Atlanta where it's like, hey, you got Kyle Pitts as a tight end.
Yep.
You got Robinson in the backfield. You got, London on the outside. You got some good young talent around you.
Yeah.
Go somewhere where there's some skill position players. Saquon's great, but I don't know if he's enough to be a team that would attract me to that.
I wouldn't even want to go to the Giants.
And, talk about just going into the belly of the beast, New York and the New York media. You're signing up for something different.
The quirkiness of Russell Wilson would be amplified times a million with that one.
Yeah.
A lot of, obviously, franchise tag rumors are starting to happen. So I'm curious to just get your thoughts on if you are these teams, are you rolling with these? So we'll start with the Chiefs and we'll start inside the AFC West. Who are you picking to franchise tag? Janarius Sneed or Chris Jones?
Chris Jones.
100%.
Yes.
Okay. So Sneed's, you're saying peace out?
I mean, I
even
like
though
both
Chris
players,
Jones sat out on you and he was like, just kidding until you pay me.
I think Chris Jones is a guy who changes your defense. I think he's a guy who, he's in the trenches is ultimately where games are won. So that's the guy I'm going with. I think he's an elite player.
I always like to play devil's advocate, but I'm also going with Chris Jones. Are you re-signing or franchise tagging Josh Jacobs with the Raiders?
Ooh, you know what? I don't know that I am because I don't know who my quarterback is.
Yep.
If I had, here's the thing: if I signed Russell Wilson for $1.1 million, I got Devontae on the outside, and I'm putting Josh Jacobs behind him. Then
Could you imagine? Also, can we just talk about I can't believe Jimmy Garoppolo got in trouble for performance-enhancing drugs, and they still benched him. I was like, Jimmy G, clearly this wasn't working, my friend. What was the point of it?
Right. No, I mean,
I'm just shocked by that.
I probably do if I'm the Raiders with Josh Jacobs because whoever my quarterback is going to be, he needs the running game to help him out. So I probably do.
All right. T. Higgins. That's the biggest name everybody's talking about with the Bengals.
Yeah, because I'm in a Super Bowl window, and I think that Super Bowl window exists.
You think Joe Burrow returns to his normal?
I think you got to hope he does, and I think the best chance of him being that way is if he's got Jamar on one side and T on the other. Yeah. So yeah, the window, and we've had this debate with the Avs and the Nuggets, and going back to the Avs with Nazem Kadri and people saying, "Oh, it's a long contract," and I don't worry about how the contract is 6 years from now. Correct.
So small.
How do you win right now? Yeah. And I think the Bengals are in that window.
Yeah.
I think you got to keep the talent around your quarterback.
Hot take. I think that the Avs window, I think it might have already passed.
Well, if it did, then shame on the organization.
Agreed.
And all the people who want to throw my Jared Bednar takes back up in my face. If they get to the end of this run, the end of the Nathan McKinnon era,
and they only won one?
They've only won one. And not only won one, but it's not like they went to the Stanley Cup final 4 times and lost 3 times and won a cup.
Yeah.
That's different than what they've done, which is essentially a bunch of first-round exits, second-round exits, and one cup. That is a complete and utter failure.
Yeah.
If that's all you get out of that era, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saving receipts on my Bednar takes.
He's saving receipts from Twitter.
Same with Michael Malone, by the way. You get one title with Nikola Jokic.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Okay, going back to the NFL. Josh Allen for the Jaguars. Linebacker, not the QB.
I don't know. I mean, is he a game changer and you want to pay him at that rate? I would say no. Good player. Is he great?
Good player.
I don't know. He's a very good player. I would go no.
If you are the Giants, are you still rolling with Saquon?
Yes.
Oh, you're going to franchise tag him again?
Yep.
2 years in a row.
Yep.
I feel like Saquon didn't do a whole lot of any. Like, I can't remember a single Saquon highlight last year.
I think Saquon's a guy that he's the old school workhorse running back that if they played it right with him in the backfield, even with Daniel Jones, who has some abilities to move around and make some plays, you should be able to make that offense work. I don't know. Yeah, I'm a believer in you don't get better by letting special players leave, and I think he's a special player. I don't think Josh Allen, the linebacker in Jacksonville, is a special player.
Wow. Okay.
He's very good. He's just not special.
Okay. How fascinating would it be, though, to see Saquon with the Texans? Could you imagine?
They'd be in the conversation with Kansas City.
For a championship.
Cincinnati, Buffalo, although Buffalo's got a lot of issues at receiver, like Gabe Davis might be leaving, and
I know,
Stephon Diggs may be leaving, and all of a sudden you're looking at it saying, well, that window shut?
Yep.
So
I think that window shut.
I think the Texans start moving into that conversation at that point.
I know. CJ Stroud, can he have as good of a year 2 as year 1? I think that would be a fascinating move, and I actually would love to see it. Like, I know a lot of times people are like, oh, I don't want to see like a lot of teams succeed. That one I'm like all in on. Here's the other one. So there's obviously tons of rumors going around right now for all of this stuff. They have Patrick Queen, the linebacker from the Ravens, attached to the Broncos.
That'd be fantastic. He's a guy back when he was coming out of LSU they should have drafted.
Yeah.
The Broncos have ignored that position and tried to patch it together since Danny Trevathan left after Super Bowl 50 and went to the Bears. And then eventually Brandon Marshall left, and they've tried to piece it together. Yeah. And, I'll get all the stats of Alex Singleton's tackles. I don't care if you make a bunch of tackles 9 yards downfield. I don't care. Right? Like, make a play that changes the game.
Yep.
They need a sideline-to-sideline linebacker in the middle.
Yep.
Probably 2 of them. And Josie Jewell and Alex Singleton just haven't been good enough. They have him in.
Now, are you willing for them to take a linebacker or a number 12 over a QB?
Yeah. I don't think you're getting a quarterback at 12 that's going to be the guy. I mean, if Brock Bowers is there, take Brock Bowers.
No way
the biggest need for this team is tight end by far. Again, back to my plan. I'm keeping Russ. I'm drafting Brock Bowers. I'm saying, Jaleel, you're the guy next year because you are the one guy in the backfield who has some breakaway ability. So you're going to spend all offseason learning pass protections and making sure you can do that.
Yeah.
And then you go sign a wide receiver in free agency, or you try and find one on day 2, day 3 of the draft.
I don't think Brock's there at 12. So I think you'd have to.
I don't know. It depends on, some mocks you see him, some mocks you don't.
Yeah.
If he's there, though, like, I've got that already filled out. So where if he's still there at 12, I'm sprinting to the podium, and Roger Goodell doesn't even leave after making the 11th pick.
It's just like, we're already done.
Yep,
Thank you.
I got 12. Here we go.
James, as always, a pleasure.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much.
All right.
Fun. Tomorrow morning, Denver Sports Daily. Come hang out with us at 10 a.m. to get all of your headlines. And then we'll be back tomorrow for another episode of Coffee Break talking about the Denver Nuggets and who is the biggest threat to them. We'll see you guys then. Bye, everybody.